Gets me every time. Am I starting? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We are talking about a Long Island breakfast staple and the Angel of Death.
And you're not even gonna believe these rolls that we're gonna talk about. They are so light, you'd think you were in heaven.
No, that's so bad. That's so bad.
All right, well, whatever.
Caviar and Cadavers.
We're sisters. Twins. We got twins a lot. Okay, great.
We love to cook. Oh, and we love murder mysteries.
It's murder then murder it is.
Hi, welcome to Caviar and Cadavers. We are your lovely angelic hosts today. My name is Krissie.
And I'm Katie.
And today we are bringing you guys a breakfast classic from our hometown of Long Island and talking about death, because that's our thing.
That
the
is our
Angel
thing.
of Death, hence our halos today. So who is the Angel of Death? Well, it was a man by the name of Richard Angelo, and he was a serial killer from Long Island.
And you know, just to take it back there, so Long Island, so for those of you who don't know, Chris and I are from Long Island. So even though we hail as like, oh, you know, we're Northeastern, you know, Boston girls now, that's not really who we are. So whip out your hoop earrings, because here we go. We're taking a trip back to Long Island, and we're gonna make the iconic bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich on a Kaiser roll, or
That
just
we
on a roll. as
Grew
the
up
Phillies say.
with, basically. We grew up with this sandwich. So we are gonna probably start with the bacon, right?
I think
Because that's
so.
gonna take the longest.
Yeah, so why don't we pop
Okay.
that in the oven?
Okay.
So Chris, why don't you tell everyone what we have here? We just have 6 strips.
Yeah, so we've got 6 strips of bacon that we actually put on a baking sheet, and we actually like to put a, I don't know what
The wire rack.
The wire
Yeah.
rack on the baking sheet, because I think that just makes the bacon crispy. And when you're from Long Island, you don't eat a breakfast sandwich unless the bacon's crispy.
You need it crispy.
You need it crispy. So we're gonna put that in the oven. It's gonna bake for,
I don't know, until we can smell it.
until it's crispy enough when we check it.
Yeah. All right, so we're making these breakfast sandwiches. Why don't we talk a little bit about this guy, Richard, and maybe explain exactly like what his contributions to Long Island were. Why was he this respected guy?
Yeah. So this guy, Richard Angelo, he was pretty conventional. I mean, there was nothing unusual about this guy. He grew up as an only child in West Islip, Long Island, which is not too far away from where we grew up. He was born in 1962, to kind of give you a reference of the time frame, and he was kind of a do-gooder. You know, he was a little bit of a goody two-shoes.
Yeah.
He was an Eagle Scout. He got good grades in school.
Went to Catholic school like
went to
us,
Catholic
like
school.
every
Yeah, I mean,
Long
he
Island.
was quiet, and he was known as a nice boy with nice parents in his neighborhood. And so what he ended up doing was he ended up going to school for nursing. He went to a 2-year program, graduated, and then moved on to a hospital on Long Island, ironically called
The Good Samaritan Hospital.
A hospital, right. But quickly we will realize that he is not the Good Samaritan.
He's a fraud.
That he is, in fact, a fraud. Absolutely.
Let's head over to the oven, and we're gonna cook some eggs for our sandwich. All right, we're gonna put a little butter in the pan on medium heat, and it was on low, so it might just take a second here. But what we're trying to do is get a nice easier over medium. You want a little bit runny yolk here, but for Chris, of course, we'll do a little over hard. We'll throw this egg on.
Love that sizzle.
Love a good sizzle, right? All right, this over here so it's not so loud. All right, so we got 2 eggs in the pan. We'll let that do its thing for a second. And you know, the egg is so important. I feel like it's one of those things, you don't want to overcook it, you don't want to undercook it, you certainly don't want any, you know, snotty white stuff that's not supposed to be there. It's a delicate thing, you can't rush it. It's an art. So we'll put a little salt. We'll put a little pepper. we'll just let it do its thing. And then actually for Krissie's, let's just break the yolk now.
And scramble it.
So we'll let it get a little, won't let it be so runny. We're just gonna let it do its thing. The thing about Long Island that's kind of interesting is that, you know, everybody who's anybody has a job in the city. So a lot of people like parents would be commuting into the city on the Long Island Railroad. And you know, you think about just deli culture and commuting culture, and you know, pretty much every station around Long Island
was near a deli.
a deli.
Yes.
And that's really a function of, you know, it's easy to go, it's quick food on the go, a nice hot meal. But like, what's more transportable than
A breakfast sandwich.
right? A nice
Something easy that can be
coffee.
taken on the train.
That's right. So shout out Malvern Deli,
Long Island Railroad.
we love your breakfast sandwiches, we love your
But not the
iced
3 o'clock
coffee.
drunk train.
Not the 3 o'clock drunk train. So okay, I'm gonna turn the stove down now because what I wanna do is just have the cheese melt, but not overcook the yolk now. So it's kind of a quick, you know, we just turned it and now we're just gonna let it do its thing while the cheese kind of comes. You don't, again, wanna overcook. So I don't know, Chris, I mean, I think we're looking pretty good
done.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna take this off. I'm gonna transport our eggs over here. We're gonna put it on our plates while we continue the components of our breakfast sandwich. And then we'll continue our story about Sir Angelo.
Sir Rich Angelo, that's right. So something special that we like to put on our breakfast sandwiches that isn't necessarily, I would say, required, a given, is avocado. So once you have a good ripe avocado, you need a nice big sharp knife. And what you're gonna do is you're basically going to cut, and when you cut the avocado, you will feel the pit. So when you cut the avocado, you're basically going to just run your knife around it, going around the pit until you basically
cut it in half, right?
Yeah, you cut it in half. And then give it a little twist, and there you have your avocado.
Perfect.
I always like to go into this with a lot of confidence, believing in myself that I'm gonna do this great and correctly. So what you're gonna do is you're basically gonna hold the avocado in one hand and then the knife most likely in your dominant hand. And you're going to basically chop it, I
Give
guess.
it a good tap. You
firm
want it,
tap until you can wiggle the pit out and it will be stuck to your knife. And then you would then dispose of the pit, or once you've got this beautiful avocado in front of you, we're gonna slice it, or should I scoop it out first?
You know, I think I like a slice. Like, you know, we're a little refined. This is the caviar show. So we'll go for a slice. You just run your knife through it. Again, Krissie's being so careful because she has the avocado in her hand, so you don't want to shove that knife through and cut your hand. This guy, you know, and I always think, you know, hospitals, like who are in there, it's like the most vulnerable people who, you know, it's like, why are you in hospital in the first place? Just, you're down on your luck. You know, something has happened, you're there for obviously a reason, you're hoping to heal, get better, and you know, the last thing you want to encounter is somebody like this guy, Richard.
Absolutely, and so what this guy, Richard, did, you know, basically the reputation that he had as a young adult being an Eagle Scout, he excelled in school, he was even a volunteer firefighter. You know, that reputation that he had growing up, he brought with him to the hospital. And he basically established himself amongst the doctors and the other nurses and the other staff members as someone who was incredibly trustworthy and very skilled. So much so that he was put in the intensive care unit during the graveyard shift. Now, do you know the graveyard shift?
Overnight,
Is
not
that
a lot
sort
of
of
people.
overnight shift, not a lot of people walking the hallways, but he was one of the nurses during that shift. So you remember how I said that he had this hero complex?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he never really was satisfied with
Just being a nurse.
being a nurse, yeah, just helping people. He needed to fulfill something within him where he needed all of this praise and fame and glory. And so what he started doing on this graveyard shift was he started to inject these patients in the intensive care unit with this deadly cocktail of drugs that would essentially incapacitate these patients. And he would bring these patients basically to the brink of death. They would be paralyzed, they couldn't breathe, they couldn't really talk.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was like the objective was to get them to cardiac arrest.
Yes,
yeah.
And so his whole grand plan was that he would get these patients to the brink of death and then save them in the hope that everyone would make this huge deal about it, praise him as a hero, and he would live out his
days as a hero.
Dream as a hero. As a twisted hero.
Total loser.
Well, that's just the start of it. As much as he thought he was this great nurse, he really wasn't, because out of the 37 code blue emergencies that ended up happening because these people were basically dying, only 12 of those 37 patients actually lived and survived to tell the tale. So we're talking about 25 people who
So he's a serial killer.
Could have, yes, who he was thought to have killed. And the thing about it is that he never even really thought he was doing anything wrong.
Because he was gonna save them.
Yeah, he continued to inject these people with this poison, and unfortunately for many of them, they died. So, the avocado is cut. Do we want to start talking about how to assemble the breakfast sandwich?
So
enraptured in the story,
I know. Chris, I'm so entranced. Talk a little about these rolls. So why don't we walk you through a little bit how we actually made these rolls. You're gonna wanna get all of your ingredients, and you're gonna wanna get your weight. So the importance about bread making is that everything to the gram is pretty precise. So here we measured out some eggs, bread flour, sugar, lukewarm water, oil, and yeast. And then really the main ingredient here that's gonna make all the difference is your barley malt syrup. So the recipe originally called, in our case, for 1.5 teaspoons. I happened to drop some extra in, so I ended up at maybe like 2.5 teaspoons. So you're gonna let this now run with your paddle attachment for about 1 to 2 minutes. Then you're gonna add your salt and let it run another minute. Okay, at this point you're gonna need to change it to your actual dough mixer. So the dough hook goes on, and this goes for 10 minutes on medium speed. So you're really letting this thing go, letting the glutens build up. Yeah, go out, go for a walk, get a coffee, because it's gonna be a little while. So at this point you can take it now out into an oiled bowl, cover it, and you're gonna let this thing sit for 2.5 hours. So you can see here it got pretty big. So now after the 2.5 hours, you turn it out. For this video, I made 8 pieces. But really what you probably wanna do, and what I found after a few test runs, is that you probably could go for about 11 rolls. The one that we just showed you here is 8. The next one I did was 10, but I think the final product, if you did 11, that probably would get you a lot closer to the texture I was looking for from my local Long Island deli. So here you can see, we're just rolling it up into tight little balls, and you're gonna let this thing proof again for a while. So here we go. Again, there we go, we're covering it, and it was 30 minutes. So now, we're gonna roll these things out. They're 6 inches, and you're gonna fold them into these little pinwheels. Now this is going pretty quick, and we can walk you through this on the blog. But what you wanna do is make this pinwheel shape, because that is the classic sign of a Kaiser roll. So you put those down in a damp towel with poppy seeds and cornmeal, and you're gonna let them proof again for a while. So at this point, after 30 minutes, you're gonna turn them upside down, put them on a parchment lined baking sheet, and you're gonna let them sit again for an additional 15 minutes. So there they go. And all the while, now you wanna go in, set your oven to 425 degrees. You're gonna want a baking stone. So that's like a pizza stone. So you're gonna wanna put that on the upper 3rd rack of your oven. And then you're gonna put a shallow pan, like a hotel pan, on the bottom of your oven while it's preheating. And the reason for this is you're gonna wanna create steam. So you boil 2 cups of water, you're gonna want at the end. And after your rolls proof, you're going to wanna put them in the oven with the steam bath. So the baking sheet goes right on top of the stone, And then you pour the water on top of the hotel pan. Steam rises, you shut that thing closed, and then you're gonna let that cook for 15 minutes. When all is said and done, you take it out, let it cool on a wire rack, and the reason for this is you don't want the steam to keep cooking the dough, and you also don't want anything to get soggy, so you get that crispy crust. Enjoy.
Okay, so now that you have cooked pretty much everything, you've got your egg with the melted cheese, you've got your bacon, you've cut your avocado, and you have your roll, it's now time to assemble it. Okay, so the first thing that you wanna do is you wanna cut this beautiful roll in half. So you wanna use, I would say, a serrated knife if you have a serrated knife. The serrated knives, you'll recognize them by the ridges along the blade, and these serrated knives just really cut through bread, I think, the best.
Yeah, it's like those infomercials where you see the fool trying to cut the bread or the tomato. You can't do it without a serrated knife.
Exactly. So how I'm cutting it is I'm leaving it flat, my hand goes right on top, pressing it down firmly so it doesn't move, and then just running my knife through it.
Like butter.
Like butter.
Like butter.
Like a cloud.
That's it. Oh, like a cloud.
Like a cloud, okay. So look at how
like, give me a freaking break with
incredible
this
that is.
crumb.
I mean, and this is exactly what you want to see in a roll like this. Soft on the inside, but not super dense. And also incredibly light. Okay.
And that malt, the malt barley syrup, that is what's gonna get you that exact taste that you want with these rolls.
Okay, so now that you have your two halves open, you're gonna basically layer all of the ingredients.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do our egg first. So I'll just grab this egg.
Grab those.
Okay.
Perfect. You wanna grab some avocado?
Avocado.
Yep, and then we'll just layer that bacon on. And Chris, as always. Oh,
Try and make
look
it
at that.
nice.
Do you want any salt and pepper on that?
Yeah, a little salt and pepper on the avocado. Okay. And yeah, I'll do the salt and pepper on the avocado. Season at every layer.
That's it.
It's the key.
Flavor.
Perfect. Okay. And then top it off. Some slices of bacon.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Okay. Okay, that's good. All right. Now, after you usually order a breakfast sandwich, I mean, it's almost like intuitive for you to be asked the question, salt, pepper, ketchup. Okay, so usually you would just agree, say yes to any of those three options, condiments. I like all three.
So we'll give a good little squirter.
Okay, and let me just kind of.
I mean, look at that. And while you do that, I'll just cut one for me.
Oh yeah. Okay, so top goes on. Okay.
It's a dream.
And there you have it. Should we cut it in half?
I think so. I think so, Chris, right?
Okay.
Oh, Chris, you took all the avocado.
Well, we can split this one.
It's quite luxe.
All right, so I'm gonna use the serrated knife, cut it in half. All right.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna eat mine. Woo.
Yeah, this is not for the neat. How is it? Like a taste of home.
No. All I need is a nice coffee. Cream and sugar. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's the way. The way, the truth, and the light.
We need to finish talking about our story. So Richard Angelo. So this nurse, you know, he's been injecting these patients with this poison, bringing them to the brink of death, most of them not surviving. So how did he get caught? Because he did get caught. Well, one of the patients that he was about to inject this cocktail into was actually able to alert another nurse. Yeah, and he was able to actually push the call button after he was injected with it because he started to feel really weird. Like he was starting to get numb. He still had the ability to talk, so he pushed the help button and someone came in and actually did a urine sample on him, tested his urine, and what do you know?
Found these muscle relaxers.
Found these two drugs in his system. And immediately, people at the hospital became suspicious of Richard Angelo because he was the one working that shift. Well, authorities were alerted. They actually went to Richard Angelo's house, searched it, and they found
those two medications.
Yep, they found vials of those 2 drugs in his house, and he was
superhero cape.
Not a superhero cape, but I'm sure he was. That would not have surprised me if he was in a superhero cape. So he was arrested and ultimately charged with multiple counts of 2nd-degree murder. His lawyers tried to use the defense that he suffered from dissociative identity disorder, which basically says that you are able to disassociate yourself from a crime and you have no idea what's happening. They weren't buying it. So he was convicted and sentenced to 61 years to life in prison. And that is the story of the Angel of Death, serial killer from Long Island.
We hope you guys liked it. We had a lot of fun with this one. I mean,
did.
I think just even our little crowns right here, our halos, we had a little fun with this one. It was nice to go back and revisit our hometown, things that we really like.
Our childhood.
If you like what you see, let us know. If you want us to change it up or do something different, also let us know, because we're so open to ideas. We just want to have a good time with this. We have a lot of stories lined up. So like, comment, subscribe, everywhere, anywhere on social media, and we'll see you next time.